Many of the protesters from Greenham Common have now dispersed. But here in Scotland, women are still at the heart of the fight against the presence of nuclear weapons.
A lot of the organisers at Faslane literally were at Greenham. Greenham caught the public imagination for its creative, non-violent forms of protest, but also for its sense of humour. I've talked about the way that they transformed the space, the military space, to become a kind of community, but also you could almost say a kind of art piece, having decorated the fence, using wool, weaving webs to resist arrest, even dressing up as teddy bears and going in and having a kind of teddy bears picnic on the silo base. So there was an awful lot of quite subtle disarming, and I use that word advisedly, disarming of expectations about what political protest should be.
That the agreement was that we were going to get rid of our nuclear bombs, and so I truly didn't believe that I would ever need to be here. I thought that actually I wasn't going to be protesting anymore, and it's awful that I continually have to.
Although this is the last day of the year-long peaceful blockade of Faslane 365, it is not the end of the campaign. I have to make this is very important. We are going into the next stage. I'm staying living in Scotland. I'm still working with the UN on issues of nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, and we're also working with the Scottish Government, who are looking at the ways that they can make sure that Scotland's environment is not harmed by the warheads and the nuclear submarines. Scottish law requires that these weapons be taken away.
Can I ask you just to move on to the footpath for me, please? Why? Why? For your safety?
We have had, at last, I think, 60 confirmed arrests, although people seem to think that there's more than 100.
Rebecca Johnson is a veteran of the international campaign for nuclear disarmament. In 2004, she was appointed senior advisor to the Weapons of Mass Destruction Commission, chaired by Hans Blix. More recently, she has turned her attention to the controversy over Iran, visiting the country in early 2007, where she spoke at a conference on Iran's nuclear energy program.
You're holding on to the wrong thing. That brown thing is not holding on to anything.
The Faslane base is the largest industrial site in Scotland, employing up to 10,000 people. The annual running costs alone are an estimated £1.7 billion.
It may take a long time, but I do think we'll get there, because at some point there's going to be a horrific accident and people are really going to have to stare at their boots and say, right, well, what are we going to do about this now? I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope they see sense before then, but the amount of military spending generally and specifically on nuclear weapons, it just doesn't make any sense.
They've actually got the locked-on people moved now, I think. I believe that many of the police here share our views that Scotland and indeed Britain should not have nuclear weapons.
We want to stop everyone else from having nuclear weapons, and the only country in the world that's used nuclear weapons is America. So I think we should maybe be thinking about trying to stop them having nuclear weapons, as well as places like this base down at Faslane here.
Retrace your step, retrace your step.
Hello, clowns!
Hello. Love and respect. Love and respect. Love and respect.
Now that's what we need, a reversal. Hi, Rebecca. They need to be going backwards, higher. Remember. Faslane and Coolport, remember.
The reason why we've come today is because I want to protest against this, because I don't agree with it being in the country or anywhere really, and I want to see a future for my children. it's an important thing to do. It's an important thing for women to teach the children, wrongs and rights, and that's why I'm here. This is a big wrong, and I think my children should learn that, really.
Faslane 365 has drawn protesters from around the world. Many of the elected members sitting in the Scottish Parliament have also expressed concerns over Trident's presence on Scottish soil. Some have even come to Faslane to take part in the protests themselves.
When I'd come the first time and I'd met somebody and said, "Oh, you're from the US, what are you doing in a British base?" But I feel like it's not about nationalities, and I mean, coming from the US, it feels more responsible to me to be able to challenge nuclear weapons when we have so many of ourselves, and yet try to tell other people not to have them.
I just think on that alone, it's been such a success. It's really brought a whole new generation of young people. I think Faslane has really helped almost facilitate this movement, because it's brought so many more people into the anti-nuclear movement and aware of the issues. And I just think on that alone, it's been such a success. It's really brought a whole new generation of young people.
You have to realise that these movements have a much longer term effect. It's not just the question of the immediate, does a cruise missile stay or go, is this nuclear programme decided yes or no? It's about the health of actually a democracy. And these kinds of protest movements are about long-term cultural change and the enfranchisement of marginal political groups.
The governments of the world are not what we deserve, but we are responsible for it. And if we don't like what's happening in the world, we have to actually actively get involved. And I just wish people would get more strength. We have the strength to stop this non-violently, but it needs hundreds and thousands of people. So I just want people to get out there and do it.
I've had to change things that I was trying to do in my life in order to do this work, but I have had so much joy. I've met so many amazing, wonderful, inspirational people. I have shared so much of my life and kept going on this, and I feel that I have lived life to the full.
This will be a museum one day.
There's been over 160 arrests so far. The youngest arrested was 14, and there's also been somebody arrested who's in her 90s and another woman celebrating her 70th birthday. It's a complete cross-section, and the atmosphere has been very strong and very committed to taking it to the next stage, which is putting the pressure on our elected representatives here in Scotland and in Britain to uphold international law and get rid of Trident.
Each person here is a drip of water, and you sometimes think, well, what can one drip of water do? We can't do anything. But if you had a drip of water over years going down a wall, that wall would break.
There's still very much a need to assert feminist interests, both in terms of women's rights clearly across the world, but also in terms of feeding into other protests like the peace movement. Sometimes people saw the protest at Greenham as a kind of role reversal, where women left home to go to the military base, to live outdoors, to live almost a soldier's life, ironically, but in the cause of anti-nuclear protest, in the cause of peace. But perhaps what's a little more positive than simply saying that we don't need a mass women's movement now is to see that there's more scope to work with men in supporting these feminist interests. And the Faslane protest at the moment is a good example of that.
I mean, it's just been wonderful seeing some of the groups coming back and feeling the power of everybody, seeing the networks working and feeling the commitment to go forward and to finish what we've been trying to do now for over 50 years.
We cannot forget.
I hope that we'll be back here celebrating that the base is gone and we can open up the loch so that people can go sailing and kayaking and play with their children down on the shore of the loch in the place where nuclear weapons used to be, that we finally realised we don't need them, we shouldn't have them, we can live in peace.
Women, make your choice. Create a world without nuclear death. Now together we are strong. Break the nuclear chain.